Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to our second episode of Two Teachers, One Mission, and Two Peas in a Pod. And so this morning is going to be a slightly shorter session, but we wanted to talk to you about sort of mental well-being during the coronavirus. So, basically, it sort of struck me the other day that when all of this happened, and Pippa and I were discussing it, and we're a few weeks in, and we were both quite excited, really, because we'd got that sort of joy of having a bit more time on our hands, and started to bake more, like everybody had, even made my own bread. I'm sure you probably did as well, Pippa, didn't you? Bake a bit more.
We got Ben to do the baking, if you remember.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's our baker.
You've got a really helpful young lad, haven't you? A young man who does that for you. And so we all started doing that. We started spring cleaning, didn't we? We were baking. We were all into these things, and we were all feeling a little bit euphoric. I mean, obviously we knew it was a dangerous time and all of that, but we had quite a bit of joy about us, because it was this sort of strange period when we felt like we had the opportunity to do all of these things. And I started my art again, and we were biking and cycling and walking and all of that sort of thing. And then, I don't know about you, and this is what I think is interesting, we're 2 months in now, and I'm starting to feel quite weary now. I'm tireder than I was when I started. I feel less happy than when all of this started. And it's almost as if my emotions have just gone down a level. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I think there's a lot of people that will be feeling coronavirus weary right now, which is the place I'm in. So I'm not as happy and as upbeat as I normally am. I'm certainly not as productive as I was at the beginning, when I could seem to get masses of stuff done really, really quickly. And I don't feel that happiness that I felt, or that even that calmness. So I don't know about you, Pippa. Are you having similar emotions?
Yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster, isn't it? I'm having a particularly I hesitate to use the word down week this week, but it's interesting to hear you say that, because it's not something you normally would vocalize, really, is it, Philippa?
No.
It's a challenging thing, and so it's curious. I think it's the natural, it's like the seasons, like the tides. It's kind of inevitable, this waxing and waning of emotions that. That is a human trait, and so at the end of the day, sometimes, particularly with the social media, we're expected to be this elated human being the whole time, and that's just not the reality of the situation, is it? At the end of the day,
it puts too much pressure on people, doesn't it? And I think it's also really important, because I think, so I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days. And I don't know if you remember when I said at the start of all this, I'd realised that I was under this sort of low-level stress with business and work and everything. And so I think that being removed felt wonderful. But I think I'm going back into that low level of stress, because we're in such uncertain times. And, with all the mindset work and everything I've done, and I always say that the brain likes certainty. It's a pattern recognition machine. And so it needs this certainty, and we haven't got that in these times. So I think over these couple of months, we've all realised, haven't we, that this is probably going to go on for a long time. It's no going back to whatever normal was, and we have to live in not even the new normal, but the now normal, don't we? And that's uncertain.
We don't know what the new normal looks like, and it changes from minute to minute. As far as what we see on the television, the idea that when shops open, they won't look like they did before.
No.
All this queuing outside supermarkets. I hate queuing. I can't stand queuing. It's the reason I've shopped online.
It's a waste of life, isn't it? It's a waste of time.
You see the life slipping away before you as you stand in the queue.
I know.
If I queue, I just drive by, I won't go in. So, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever go in a shop again.
Well, can you imagine going in a shop to buy some clothes where, you know, you've got to do a one-way system, you're not allowed to touch anything, you can't try anything on? I mean, come on.
What?
I wouldn't.
Oh gosh, I never thought that. I won't be able to try things on.
No, all the changing rooms are going to be closed.
Well, that's the only reason I go to the shop.
Exactly. To look at yourself under those bright white lights that make you look horrible anyway. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine that?
Oh gosh, so I was actually waiting for the shop to open so I could go and buy some new gym gear and try it on, but I can't try it on.
You can't try it on. You're not even allowed to touch it, so they say. You can't even pick it up and feel the fabric. I mean, you know, it's really strange, isn't it?
No. A lot in postage, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
Well,
I know, because at least if you do online, you can get it home, you can try it on in front of your own mirror, which might be slightly pleasant than the shop mirrors. You can feel the quality of the fabric. Yeah, I know, it is bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think at the beginning it was for me this, you know, the idea that it was a sort of stepping back in time. We were all painting our fences and baking, and you know, and it was like a vacation in the first instance. But now it's like Groundhog Day, and we're doing it every day, and it's not quite as much fun as it was. You know, and I think that's the reality is kind of hitting home that life is not quite going to be as it was, and whether that's for a long time or forevermore, who knows? We don't know it. And I think that's, like you say, this uncertainty around the shape of what things are going to look like. Because we know the brain just loves to be able to run on autopilot and not
absolutely. Yeah, and we can't, because we haven't, you know, we go back, don't we, in our brain all the time and think, well, what's this like? Oh, it was like this situation and that worked out like this, so therefore I'll be fine, or I won't, depending on what the situation was. But we haven't got anything to go back to in our brains to think, oh, well, this was like that. And it does cause that sort of low-level anxiety. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge this, because, you know, if we don't acknowledge it and we just suppress these emotions, put a smile on our face and carry on as if we're fine, okay, what happens is when you suppress your emotions, even if they might be negative emotions or ones we don't particularly desire, like anxiety and depression, is that we then suppress the great emotions that we're all after, which is joy and happiness and fun. And so I have noticed over the last few weeks that I'm not playing my music as loud or even as often. You know, and in the first time I'd got my music on, I was dancing around the kitchen and I was having a good time. Now I'm just, you know, and I feel like, and so I was just thinking, I think what I'm doing is I'm suppressing the fact that actually this uncertainty has and is making me feel a little bit anxious, because I don't know what the future is. Not that we ever do, of course.
Don't you think that when we talk about low mood, that or, you know, anxiety, that it brings down the level of all our emotions? We can't.
Yes.
We can't have that joy if we everything's stepped down a level. So I think to expect to feel happy and joyous is a bit unrealistic, is it not?
Yeah, it is. It is in some ways, but I also think that maybe there's things that we can do. And I always think the first thing is acknowledging that actually you don't feel as good as you did is the first step. Because once you're suddenly aware of it and you think, you know what, I mean, on my daily walk with hubby, we often talk about these things. And we're both saying that we started to sleep worse. You know, whereas my sleep had improved massively to start with. Now I'm not sleeping as well. We're both feeling a little bit more, you know, it's everything as we're going back, depending on your job and all of that sort of thing, there's loads more pressures. So work is a bit more pressurized. Some people are going back out into the real world again. And that must be causing anxiety because, you know, if you don't feel safe, so I wrote down the figures because I thought they were quite interesting. on the, it's a bit morbid, isn't it, the fatality rate, but you know, just under 50s is 0.6. So 50 and under, people are skipping around thinking, this is great. We're you know, most of them are going to be fine, because most people get very mild symptoms. Obviously, there's always exceptions. 60 to 69 is 3.4% at the moment. So it jumps up quite considerably, doesn't it? 70 to 79, 7 to 9%. And then over 80s, 13 to 17%. And so when I was, yeah.
Our bracket on purpose.
No, it was just the stats. I didn't do it. I was just saw them.
Not exist, is that it? Well, between the 50 and 65, what's that? We're in some kind.
It doesn't say that one. So you've only got under 50, 60 to 69. So we're missed out. So we must be somewhere in the middle, I suppose. But you know what? I suppose what that information made me think is, we could use this information to help us with our mental well-being, you know, couldn't we? Because we all are going to have to take a calculated risk, because we have to start, as the government allows us, to get out there again. And I was just thinking, well, if you sort of know those figures, you could go out with less anxiety if you fall into one of those younger categories. Unfortunately, I don't fall into the under 50s anymore, much as I'd love to. Those days are gone. But, you know, and it's about being sensible, isn't it? It's about common sense approach.
I mean, it's always been the same, really, if in actual fact, you know, the statistic on young people dying in road traffic accidents has gone down because nobody's on the road. So you know what before was killing us, maybe that's not going to kill us now, and it'll be this instead, rather than as well. So,
yeah, that's right.
Also, I mean, that's a whole nother perspective to throw on the situation, isn't it? But, you know, and that's the thing, really, to keep it in perspective.
Yeah, exactly that.
I really think that the media, the imagery that we're exposed to, all these people wearing visors and, you know, gloves and double gowns, you know, that is scary. You know, to me, having worked in hospitals, to me that's familiar, you know, but for most people, maybe not the visor, to be fair, but to most people, that, I mean, that's something out of a movie.
It is,
you know,
but
it's a science fiction movie, something that we never thought we'd see in real life. And so we're exposed to these terrible, frightening images, and it's disproportionate. I mean,
it is disproportionate.
And so the reality, like you said, 3.5% of all 65 to...
Was it? It was 60 to 69, 3 to 4%, which is...
3 to 4. I said 3.5, halfway between.
Yeah, but I think that's about right, isn't it?
I mean, to me, that sounds quite low.
It is quite low. It is quite low. And that's why it's about common sense and perspective. And I think one of the things I would say is, if we're listening to the news and the media, which I personally think has been appalling through this whole process, but that's another one. And if you're listening to that, it starts to feed in to our anxiety levels constantly, doesn't it?
So we've got to keep that sense of perspective, and you know, like you say, on days when you're feeling a bit down in the dumps or whatever, then you go, you see it for what it is. I'm having a day of being down in the dumps, and then know that there's things you can do to lift the mood.
Yes.
You know, out in the big outdoors, the fresh air, the sunlight, you know, we know we can walk our way to wellness if we try, and
we absolutely can. Yeah, and we have been doing, and we have been so lucky with the weather, and that does, I think that lifts every single person. The sun's streaming in, get outside, whether you want to walk or cycle or run. Hey, guess what? I've done 2 runs again. First time in, I know, this is the first time I've run in years and years. I used to love running. I was a huge runner. You know, I ran for about 25 years of my life, but I had this incredible desire because the sun was shining, and I got out there, and boy, did it lift my mood again. It's not great for my body, but it's great for my mind, you know. And then I thought, wow, I know. So I'm going to just gently and slowly start a little bit of running again. Just a little.
Slowly. Make sure you've got the right footwear, plenty of cushioning.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just bought myself a new pair of running shoes. Well, they're online, so whether they fit me or not, we'll soon discover. But yeah.
You haven't got them yet. You've not got them
No,
yet.
well, it was because I was running in my old running shoes that are like 10 to 15 years old, and I'm like, these are completely knackered. They really are. And it's not good.
Even if you haven't covered a lot of mileage in your running shoes, you should replace them every year.
Yeah.
So yeah, 15's quite a long time.
It is quite a long time. I wasn't replacing them every year, but they were lovely. They were my favourite ones. I loved them so much.
Like me, I've got a cupboard full of favourite things, and I keep looking at them, and I never put them on, and I just keep thinking, why don't I get rid of these things that are so my favourite things? And then you try and you still can't do it.
I know. It's hard to get rid of stuff, isn't it? I mean, one thing that we're doing at the moment is clearing stuff out, like everybody in the UK is. Yeah. Goodness knows where we're going to put all this stuff. Actually, we're quite lucky because we've got a skip, a builder's skip, because we're having work done on the house. So I rang up Bob. Who really is Bob the builder. Bob, my builder, is wonderful. And I said, you need to get another skip because we filled it. They need to use it for their building stuff.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, you have got a skip. Everybody needs a skip,
Everybody needs a skip. I got stuff out of my attic that when I moved into this house 22 years ago, I still hadn't opened the box.
Oh.
How bad is that?
It's definitely time to go.
It is. And so Max said, we're not even going to open the box because you haven't missed in 22 years. I'm going to just lift it up and put it straight in the skip and not let you look in it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Philippa. You know, this morning when I got out of bed, I could happily have turned over and gone back to bed. People might not know this was 8 o'clock in the morning. And so, do you know what? Talking to you has just been a real tonic. And I think that's, the thing that we miss now at the minute is this. And so even talking with somebody through this artificial medium of the screen is still going to be something that gives us a lift, isn't it? So,
definitely is.
Talk to somebody over the fence, talk to them through the screen, just and you can't help but feel just a little bit better for doing it.
Absolutely, because we're such social human beings. I mean, we want to hug, and I want to hug everybody again, but that will come. But this communication, connection, it's what it's all about, isn't it? Because we are such social human beings. And that I can't remember the actual research on this, but they just said the people that are happiest are the ones who have great social connections. So it is important to pick up the phone, Zoom people, talk to people, like you say, over the fence. I've spoken to my neighbours more than ever. So I think that boosts your mental well-being. Other things that boost your mental well-being are doing things you love, getting out in nature and doing stuff that you love. Cycle, walk, run, all that sort of thing. And do things to lift your mood. So, actually think, I'm feeling a bit flat today. So if music is your thing, it is my thing, I really love it, is put it on really loud, have that little dance around the kitchen, waving at the neighbours as they go by, but doing things to lift your mood, because I firmly believe that the first sort of hour of when you get up sets your mood for the whole day.
Magic hour.
That magic hour. Yeah. Magic hour. I think it's really...
Move your body, do something for your mind.
Yeah.
Don't put the technology going. There's definitely a lot around that. So I'm really sorry, but you...
Yeah, I know. We're busy ladies, and you have our private client next, so it's been lovely to talk to you, and we will do another one soon, so I hope you've all enjoyed that, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.